India just became the third largest economy in the world, past Japan and Germany, $4 trillion in GDP, growing at 7% annually while China slows, Europe stagnates, and Japan shrinks. This is not temporary. This is structural shift in global economic power. The Asian century that started with China's rise is continuing with India's emergence. And the implications for global trade, geopolitics, and investment are enormous. Right now, India has 1.4 billion people, 400 million middle-class consumers, more than the entire United States population. And that middle class is expanding by 40 million people every year. Apple, Google, Amazon, all building massive operations in India. Not just outsourcing, full-scale manufacturing, R&D centers, and targeting Indian consumers as growth market. The International Monetary Fund confirmed in December 2024 that India's nominal GDP reached $4.05 trillion, surpassing Japan at $4.02 trillion and Germany at $4.00 trillion. This makes India the third largest economy after the United States at $28 trillion and China at $18 trillion, and the gap is closing. This milestone happened precisely when India's demographic dividend is peaking, while competitors face aging populations and shrinking workforces. The probability of India becoming the second largest economy by 2050, passing Japan and Germany permanently, approaches certainty if current growth continues. This is the pattern of every major economic rise in modern history. Britain in the 1800s, United States in early 1900s, Japan in 1960s, 80s, China in 2000s, 2010s, large population, rapid industrialization, integration into global trade, political stability, all present in India now. And once economic momentum builds, it compounds. Raghuram Rajan, former governor of the Reserve Bank of India and University of Chicago economist, stated in November 2024, India's rise is inevitable given demographics and reforms implemented over last decade. The question is not if India becomes economic superpower, but how fast. And current trajectory suggests faster than most predict. Even more significant, this is happening while China, the previous growth story, is slowing. China's demographic peak passed, working age population shrinking, real estate bubble bursting, debt at unsustainable levels. India is becoming the alternative, the next China, but with democracy, rule of law, and English language advantage. The assumption that economic development required authoritarian efficiency broke completely when India demonstrated democracy can deliver rapid growth if reforms align incentives correctly. Here's what should excite every investor and concern every competitor. India is where China was 15 years ago, emerging but not emerged. Opportunities everywhere, risks manageable, returns extraordinary for those who position early. But window is closing. In 10 years, India will be expensive and obvious. Today, it's still cheap and contrarian. Think about that. Before we break down exactly how India passed Japan and Germany, why demographics give India unstoppable advantage, what sectors are driving growth and which companies are winning, and whether India can sustain 7% growth for the next decade. If you want to understand the most important economic story of the next 20 years, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because what we're revealing will change how you see global economic power shifts and where the opportunities and risks lie. Leave a comment. Will India surpass China by 2050? What are the biggest obstacles to India's growth? And should investors bet big on India now or wait? Let's start with how India got here because the trajectory is remarkable. In 2000, India's GDP was $476 billion, smaller than Netherlands. In 2010, $1.7 trillion. In 2020, $2.7 trillion. In 2024, $4 trillion. That's 8 times growth in 24 years. Average annual growth of 8.7%. For comparison, China grew even faster during its peak. But India is maintaining high growth longer. China peaked at 14% growth in 2007, now growing at 4 to 5%. India has been consistently at 6 to 8% for over a decade, and projections are for this to continue. What changed? Reforms. Economic liberalization started in 1991 after balance of payments crisis forced India to open economy. But real acceleration came in last 10 years under Modi government. Goods and Services Tax, GST, implemented in 2017. Unified tax system across entire country. Before GST, every state had different tax rates. Transporting goods across states required paying taxes at each border. Massive inefficiency. GST eliminated this, created truly national market. Bankruptcy code reformed in 2016. Before, shutting down failed business took 10 years in courts. Creditors couldn't recover assets. This prevented capital reallocation. New code allows bankruptcy resolution in 2 years. Banks can now lend more confidently because recovery is possible. Infrastructure investment exploded. Government spending on roads, ports, airports, metro systems. India built 25,000 kilometers of highways since 2014, 13 new airports, multiple metro systems. This reduces logistics costs and enables commerce. Digital infrastructure is ahead of most developed countries. Unified Payments Interface, UPI, allows instant bank-to-bank transfers. 500 billion transactions in 2024, more than global credit card transactions combined. No other country has payment system this efficient. Aadhaar, biometric ID system, covers 99% of population. Links to bank accounts, welfare, and services. Eliminated massive fraud in welfare distribution. Savings used for infrastructure investment. Foreign investment liberalized. Previously, foreign companies needed Indian partner and couldn't own majority stake. This prevented serious investment. Now, most sectors allow 100% foreign ownership. Apple opened factories. Tesla is negotiating. Samsung expanded massively. The cumulative effect is India transformed from bureaucratic nightmare to reasonably business-friendly economy. Not Singapore level, but acceptable for large-scale investment. Now let's talk about demographics because this is India's unstoppable advantage. India has 1.4 billion people. Median age is 28. In China, 39. In Japan, 49. In Germany, 47. India is young, and young populations drive growth. Working age population, 15 to 64 years, is 950 million. That's 2/3 of total population, and it's growing. By 2030, 1 billion people of working age. That's more than entire developed world combined. Dependency ratio, number of dependents per worker, is declining. Fewer children per family due to falling birth rates. And elderly are still small proportion because population structure is young. This means maximum proportion of population is productive. This is demographic dividend, and India is in sweet spot. For comparison, China's working age population peaked in 2015, now shrinking by 5 million per year. By 2050, China loses 200 million workers. This is demographic disaster. You cannot grow economy with shrinking workforce. Japan's working age population has been shrinking since 1995. This is primary cause of Japan's lost decades. Not lack of technology or work ethic, just not enough workers. Germany faces same problem. Workforce shrinking. They're importing labor but not fast enough to offset native population decline. India has opposite problem. Surplus labor. 9 million people enter workforce every year. Challenge is creating enough jobs. But surplus labor means wages stay competitive. India remains low-cost manufacturing destination. And as people find work, consumption rises, which drives growth. Positive feedback loop. The demographic advantage lasts until 2050. That's 26 years of working age population growth. By then, India will be a rich country and can afford aging population. But for next quarter century, demographics are massively favorable. Now let's talk about specific sectors driving growth because it's not just one industry. IT services is established strength. Tata Consultancy Services, Infosys, Wipro. These companies dominate global outsourcing. 200 billion in annual revenue, employing 5 million people, and growing as digital transformation accelerates globally. Manufacturing is emerging. India wants to be next China. Production-linked incentive schemes offer subsidies to manufacturers. Apple now produces 7% of iPhones in India. Samsung makes 50% of its phones there. Automotive industry is massive. Maruti Suzuki, Tata Motors, Hyundai, all producing millions of vehicles annually. Pharmaceuticals is global powerhouse. India produces 60% of world's vaccines. 40% of generic drugs sold in US come from India. Serum Institute of India is largest vaccine manufacturer by volume. This is strategic asset, especially post-COVID. Financial services is booming. HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, State Bank of India. These institutions are rapidly digitizing. Mobile banking adoption is higher than most developed countries. Fintech startups like Paytm, PhonePe, processing billions of transactions. Renewable energy is growing fast. India installed 170 gigawatts of renewable capacity. Solar costs collapsed. Ambani's Reliance is investing heavily in green energy. Goal is 450 gigawatts by 2030. This is climate opportunity and energy security simultaneously. E-commerce is exploding. Flipkart, Amazon India, thousands of digital merchants. Online retail was 20 billion in 2020, projected 150 billion by 2028. Logistics infrastructure is enabling this, and young population comfortable with online shopping. The diversity of growth sectors is key. India is not dependent on one industry like many emerging markets. Broad-based growth is more sustainable. Now let's talk about infrastructure investment because this is unlocking growth. Logistics costs in India historically were 16% of GDP, highest in world. In US, 8%. In China, 10%. High logistics costs make manufacturing uncompetitive. You produce cheaply, but shipping to customer costs too much. Government targeted this, built highways connecting major cities, Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, Chennai-Bangalore Corridor, multiple others. These reduce transit time from days to hours. Dedicated freight corridors for railways, trains carrying only cargo, no passenger interruptions. Move goods across country faster and cheaper. This is game changer for manufacturers. Ports upgraded and expanded. Mundra, Nhava Sheva, Chennai. Container handling capacity doubled. Turnaround time reduced. Ships spend less time in port. Costs fall. Metro systems in 23 cities. Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad all have extensive metros. This reduces road congestion. Workers commute faster. Productivity improves. Airports expanded. Delhi and Mumbai have world-class terminals. Bangalore Airport handles 30 million passengers annually. Regional airports being built or upgraded. Air cargo capacity increasing. Digital infrastructure is arguably most advanced. 400 million people use UPI. Transaction costs are essentially zero. This enables small merchants to accept digital payments. Financial inclusion accelerates, and government can deliver welfare directly to bank accounts. No intermediaries stealing. The infrastructure investment is 6 to 7% of GDP annually. Sustaining this for 10 more years will put India on par with China's infrastructure. An infrastructure multiplier effect is real. Every dollar spent generates $3 to $4 in economic activity. Now let's talk about challenges because it's not all positive. Bureaucracy and corruption remain problems. World Bank's ease of doing business ranks India at 63. Better than before, but still not good enough. Starting business takes too long. Permits are expensive. Bribes are common. This deters some investors. Education quality is mixed. Elite institutions like IITs are world-class, but average quality is poor. Many graduates are not employable without additional training. This constrains growth in high-skill sectors. Labor laws are rigid. Hiring permanent employees is difficult because firing is nearly impossible. So companies hire contract workers. This prevents formation of stable employment relationships and reduces productivity. Infrastructure gaps remain. Rural roads are poor. Power supply is unreliable in many areas. Water scarcity is worsening. These constrain development. Air pollution in major cities is terrible. Delhi has worst air quality in world at times. This affects health and productivity and deters some foreigners from relocating. Income inequality is high. Billionaires are flourishing, but hundreds of millions live in poverty. This creates social tension and political pressure for redistribution rather than growth. Religious and caste tensions exist. Occasional violence. This creates uncertainty for investors and consumes political bandwidth that should focus on economics. These challenges are real, but they're manageable. They slow growth, but don't stop it. India is growing at 7% despite these problems. If problems are partially solved, growth could accelerate to 8 or 9%. And if not solved, India still grows but slower. Now let's talk about China comparison because everyone asks if India is next China. Similarities exist. Large population, young workforce, rapid industrialization, integration into global trade. These are conditions China had during its rise. But differences are significant. India is democracy. This slows decision-making. Can't bulldoze villages for factory like China, but also provides stability. No risk of political upheaval like China's Cultural Revolution. Investors trust rule of law more in democracies. India speaks English. Massive advantage for services and global business. Chinese language barrier limited China's service exports. India dominates IT outsourcing partly because of English. India has no one-child policy hangover. China artificially restricted births for decades, now paying price with aging population. India's fertility fell naturally to 2.0. Sustainable level. India's private sector is stronger. In China, state-owned enterprises dominate. In India, private companies drive growth. Tata, Reliance, Infosys, all private. This is more efficient and resilient. But China has advantages India lacks. Infrastructure is decades ahead. Manufacturing ecosystem is unmatched. Logistics are efficient. Government can mobilize resources fast. India is catching up but far behind. Will India surpass China? In population, yes. India is already larger. In GDP, unlikely in our lifetimes. China has 18 trillion GDP. India has 4 trillion. Even if India grows at 7% and China at 4%, India doesn't catch up until 2060s. By then, both economies are mature. Growth differential narrows. More realistic question is, will India become strong enough that global businesses view it as alternative to China? Answer is yes. Already happening. Apple, Google, Samsung, diversifying from China to India. This is strategic shift, and once supply chains relocate, they don't move back easily. Now let's talk about geopolitics, because economic rise has security implications. India is largest democracy, strategic partner for US and West, counterweight to China. This alignment provides security umbrella. India doesn't face sanctions risk like China might. This is huge advantage for foreign investors. India has military capability, nuclear weapons, strong conventional forces. No country can coerce India militarily. This provides stability that many emerging markets lack. India is member of BRICS, but not aligned with China or Russia. Non-aligned position, trades with everyone, buys Russian oil at discount, maintains strategic partnership with US. This pragmatism is smart. Border disputes with China and Pakistan exist, but manageable, not existential threats. Occasional skirmishes, but no full-scale war since 1971. This is acceptable risk level. The geopolitical positioning is optimal, large enough to be important, not threatening enough to be contained, democratic enough to be acceptable partner to West, pragmatic enough to trade with everyone. This is sweet spot for economic development. Now let's talk about investment opportunities, because this is what investors care about. Broad market exposure through ETFs. iShares MSCI India ETF. These provide diversified exposure to top Indian companies, easy access for retail investors, direct investment in giants, Reliance Industries, massive conglomerate, energy, retail, telecom, market cap over 200 billion, Tata Group companies, steel, IT, automotive, hospitality, trusted brands. Financial sector is opportunity. HDFC Bank is among best banks globally, digitally advanced, growing rapidly. ICICI Bank similar. As economy grows, banking sector captures large share of growth. IT services exporters, TCS, Infosys. As world digitalizes, these companies win, already proven. Low risk growth. E-commerce and consumer plays. Flipkart is private but owned by Walmart. Amazon India is growing. Reliance Retail is largest retailer. As middle class expands, consumption grows. Infrastructure companies. Larsen and Toubro builds roads, ports, power plants. Government spending on infrastructure flows to them. Order books are massive. Pharmaceuticals. Sun Pharma, Dr. Reddy's, export to US and Europe. Defensive sectors with growth. Renewable Energy Limited. Solar, wind projects. Growth sector with government support. For venture capital, startups are booming. Unicorns in fintech, edtech, logistics, Zomato, Swiggy, Razorpay. High risk but high return if successful. The key is India is still undervalued relative to future potential. Indian stock market trades at 22 times earnings, US at 25. Reasonable valuation for 7% growth economy. Entry point is good. Now let's talk about risks, because every investment has downside scenarios. Political risk exists. Modi's BJP lost majority in 2024 election. Coalition government is weaker. Reforms could slow. If populist measures increase, fiscal deficit widens. Growth slows. Market corrects. External shocks could derail growth. Global recession. Commodity price spikes. Financial crisis. India is integrated into global economy, not immune to external problems. Infrastructure bottlenecks could constrain growth. If investment slows, logistics costs stay high. Manufacturing uncompetitive. growth potential unfulfilled. Social unrest from inequality. If wealth concentration continues and poverty reduction slows, political backlash, redistributive policies, growth hurt. Climate change impacts, India is vulnerable, droughts, floods, heat waves, these disrupt agriculture and economy. If climate impacts worsen faster than adaptation, growth suffers. China competition. If China revives through aggressive stimulus, steals market share from India, Indian exports lose competitiveness, growth moderates. These risks are real but manageable. Diversification helps. Don't put entire portfolio in India, but having 15 to 20% exposure makes sense for long-term investors. Now let's talk about timeline, because question is, how long does India's rise continue? Next 5 years, 2025-2030, growth likely stays at 6.5 to 7.5%. Infrastructure investment continues. Manufacturing scales. Middle class expands. GDP reaches 6 trillion. Still third largest, but gap to Germany and Japan widens significantly. 5 to 10 years, 2030-2035. Growth moderates to 6 to 7% as economy matures. But compounding continues. GDP reaches 8 to 9 trillion, firmly established as third largest. Starts approaching China's growth rate as China slows further. 10 to 20 years, 2035-2045. India becomes high middle income country. Per capita GDP reaches $12,000 to $15,000. Total GDP crosses 12 trillion, possibly approaching China if China's slowdown is severe, but still second to China and US. 20 to 30 years, 2045-2055. India's population peaks and starts aging. Growth slows to 4 to 5%, but by then, India is a rich country. Per capita GDP over 20,000. Quality of life comparable to Eastern Europe today. This is success. The timeline shows India's rise is multi-decade story, not quick flip, requires patience, but returns compound, and geopolitical importance grows. This is investment for next generation. If this breakdown of how India passed Japan and Germany, why demographics give unstoppable advantage, what sectors are driving growth, and whether India can sustain this for next decade, changed how you see global economic shifts and where opportunities lie, hit that like button and subscribe. We're tracking every indicator of India's rise, every policy reform, every sign of whether 7% growth continues. Leave a comment. Will India surpass China by 2050? What are biggest obstacles to growth? Should investors bet big on India now or wait? Share this with anyone interested in emerging markets, geopolitical shifts, or anyone who thinks the future of global economy is only about US and China. After this, they'll understand why India is third pole of global economic power and why the Asian century that started with China continues with India.